A warm welcome to all the students. In this lecture, we shall continue our discussion of inheritance. We shall now see a dynamic polymorphism method. In Java, dynamic polymorphism is implemented using something called as dynamic dispatch. Now, let us assume that we have a class which is called as 2D shape. Okay. This class has floating point values which represent dimensions of 2D figure, say dim1 and dim2. Along with this, suppose the class also has two member functions or methods. The first method is called as get dimension, that ultimately takes the dimension values from the user, and the second method is called as print area method, that basically prints the area of a given shape. So, let us say this is the super class. Now, we have another class called as rectangle class, such that rectangle class it inherits or extends the super class. So, rectangle is a subclass and 2D shape is the super class. Again, rectangle class, the object of the rectangle class can now access the dimensions and it can access the get dimensions and print area functions. Similarly, there is another class called as triangle class. Triangle class object can also access dimension 1 and dimension 2 fields of 2D shape class, which is a super class, and get dimensions and print area methods it can access. Okay. So, with respect to this particular example, we shall exhibit how dynamic polymorphism can be achieved. So, what we do is we declare a class called as 2D shape, which is a super class, and in this super class we declare fields called as dim1 and dim2. We also declare two methods, that is get dimensions and print area. However, the definitions of these methods are not written in this 2D shape class, okay, which means whichever class that is say rectangle class, triangle class, circle class or any other 2D shape class, whichever class that inherits this particular 2D shape class will have to define these get dimensions and print area according to their own need. Okay. Now, the question is, how can I access the methods of these individual classes? Okay. So, for that what we do is we create a reference object called as ref of 2D shape. Okay. So, ref is basically a variable of type 2D shape which can refer to an object, okay, of either type rectangle or of type triangle. Why? Because rectangle and triangle classes, okay, they are subclasses of the superclass called as 2D shape. Okay. So, let us quickly see the program and then we can come back and see what can we do and how actually we achieve dynamic polymorphism. Now, this is basically a program that we have written. So, we have class that is 2D shape, dim1 and dim2, these are the two floating point values representing the dimensions of any 2D shape. Get dimensions function that I have written, I am just printing a message that superclass get dimension method is called. Again, another function or method that we have written is print area. Here also I am simply printing a message that superclasses print area method is called. I simply printed this messages in order to tell you that get dimensions and print area are the normal functions or normal methods and they are not abstract methods, because if they are abstract method then 2D shape class itself will become a abstract class and you will not be able to create object of 2D shape class. That is why just to to define something in this to get dimensions and print area methods, I simply printed this message. Okay. So, 2D shape is basically the superclass. Now, we create another class called as rectangle, and rectangle class it extends 2D shape. Now, since rectangle class extends 2D shape, all the attributes, that is dim1, dim2, as well as the methods, that is get dimensions and print area, are accessible to the rectangle class. Now what rectangle class does over here is, it simply defines the get dimension method. Okay. So when I write here void get dimensions, this is basically a get dimension method of the rectangle class, whereas this get dimension method over here, it is the get dimension method of the superclass. And we have already seen there is something called as method overriding, okay, in which we have seen that whenever you have superclass and subclass, you can actually have the same method defined in superclass as well as in the subclass. Okay. Now, so in rectangle class, get dimension method, what it does is, first of all, we declare a scanner object sc1, because we are going to ask the user to enter the input. Then we ask the user to enter the width of the rectangle. Okay. dim1 stores the floating point value of that value that is typed from the keyboard, and then we ask the user to enter the height of the rectangle. So again, dim2 stores the floating point version of the value that is entered to the keyboard. Okay. We have used next float functions, inbuilt functions in the scanner class. So this is how get dimension method is defined. So rectangle class defines that get dimension method according to its own need. Okay, because rectangle has something called as width and height. Then it defines another method called as print area. Again, see, the superclass also has a print area method. We have defined a print area method in the subclass. Now this subclass's print area method, it just prints the area of rectangle, and that is nothing but width into height. Okay, area of the rectangle is nothing but dim1 into dim2. So whatever is the result, it simply prints. So this is the rectangle class. Then we have another class called as triangle, and this triangle class also extends 2D shape. Notice that rectangle class is a subclass of 2D shape, and now triangle class is also a subclass of a 2D shape. Okay. So again, triangle class, it defines get dimension method according to its own need. So again, it asks the user to enter the base of the triangle stored in dim1 and height of the triangle stored in dim2. So this is how triangle class defines get dimensions according to its own needs. Now print area method, okay, it simply prints the area of triangle is half into base into height. Fine. So if you just see this graphically, we have just defined two classes, one is rectangle, one is triangle class. The base class or the super class, that is called as 2D shape, it has get dimensions and print method of its own, and in rectangle as well as in triangle classes, we have defined their own get dimension methods and area methods according to their own needs. Okay. So now dynamic polymorphism is what? Okay, we have already seen what is method overriding. In method overriding earlier, suppose I create an object of rectangle class. Okay. Okay, we create an object of a rectangle class. Now notice that rectangle class is a subclass of 2D shape class. 2D shape class also has get dimensions and print area method, and rectangle class also has get dimensions and print area method. Their definitions are different in each of these classes. But notice that when R, object R, tries to call the get dimension function, okay, when the object of rectangle class tries to call get dimension function or method, which method will be called? Will the method get dimension method from the base class will be called, or will the get dimension method from the derived class or the subclass will be called? So this actually is decision is made during the compile time. So this in this particular method, what compiler does it just checks what is the type of object R. Okay, since it is object R who is calling the get dimension method, it checks what is the data type of R, and the type of R is rectangle. Notice that class names are basically nothing but they are the user defined data types. So, the data type of R object is rectangle, and that is why it overrides this particular call, it overrides the get dimension method from the superclass, and it calls the get dimension method of the subclass. Why? Because the type of the object R is of type rectangle. So, get dimension method that we are going to call that is going to be called, it is also the get dimension method from the rectangle class itself. So, the decision of which function or which method to be called from, whether it is from the base class or whether it is from the derived class, okay, this decision is purely based on what is the type of the object. So, this is basically the static polymorphism, because this decision making is happening during the compile time. Now, right now the example that we are seeing, this is called as dynamic polymorphism, wherein whether to call get dimension method from the base class, that is superclass, or from the derived class, that is subclass, this decision will be taken dynamically during the runtime. How? Okay. So, for this, okay, just to show you the dynamic polymorphism, or which is also called as dynamic dispatch. Okay, I will now show you the small demo. Okay, so first we are going to create a reference variable of 2D shape. Okay. Now, note that whenever you define such kind of statement, what we do is, see, in the heap, object is not yet created. When the object is created only when you write ref equal to new 2D shape. So, whenever there is new keyword encounter, only then we say that 2D a new object of type 2D shape is created. And what is ref? Ref is basically a simple reference name that refers to that object. So, graphically what it means is ref is not part of the heap memory. Okay. In the heap, a new object of type 2D shape is created, and ref actually basically stores the starting address or the reference of that object. Whereas this 2D shape object gets created in the heap, whereas ref, that is a normal reference variable, is not part of the heap. It only stores the memory address which is the starting address of the object that is created. So, this is basically the concept that you need to know before we continue. Okay. So, right now what I have done is I have not defined this second line, I am just saying that 2D shape ref. So, what is ref? Ref is basically a reference name, okay, that can refer to object of type 2D shape, that is the meaning of it. Now, I create objects of both the subclasses. So, first I create rectangle object, okay, and then I create a triangle object. Okay. Now, if you have come from C++ background, remember that to achieve this dynamic polymorphism, or we say runtime polymorphism, okay, there we used to take the help of pointer to the base class and pointer to the derived class. In Java, there are no pointers. In fact, this dynamic polymorphism is automatically implemented in Java. How? Just see. So, now what we do is, see, we have created an object called as ref. We have created a reference variable of type 2D shape. That means this ref can actually point to the object of type 2D shape. But notice that rectangle and triangle, they inherit this 2D shape. So, which means that ref can also point to object of type rectangle if required, and ref can also point to the object of type triangle if required, and this conversion, data type conversion, it will be happening automatically. So, the automatic type conversion will happen if a superclass data type object tries to object reference tries to point to a subclass object. Okay, so automatic type conversion will happen. So now what we do is we have just created a reference called as 2D shape, and now what we do is we just say ref is the reference variable's name. We just say ref equal to r. That means graphically we are now making ref point to the object of type rectangle, that is r. We have just defined r, which is object of type rectangle. So ref is now made to point to object of type r just by writing this line ref equal to r. Okay. So now since ref is pointing to the object of r, using ref reference name, if I use dot operator and access get dimensions, okay, which get dimension method will be called? Will the method from the base class will be called, or the method from the derived class will be called? Okay. Will the method from the super class will be called, or the method from the subclass will be called? Okay. Now here the decision making happens to be dynamic. It just sees that reference variable ref, which is reference variable of base class. Since reference variable ref is pointing to currently object r, which is of the rectangle class, obviously when you call get dimensions method, it calls the get dimension method of the rectangle class. Okay. But suppose later in the program, if I just write ref equal to t. So graphically, instead of pointing to rectangle object, now ref variable, it tries to point to triangle object. If I say ref equal to t, and then if I say ref dot get dimensions, if I say ref dot get dimensions, now the decision to call which method, it depends on, okay, the object to which ref is pointing. Since ref is now pointing to the object of type triangle, get dimension method of the triangle class will be called. Okay. So this ref variable, it works like a toggle switch. So it can either, it can either point to object r of type rectangle, and through ref you can call all the member functions or all the methods from rectangle object. But then if it switches to triangle object, then using ref you can call all the methods of the triangle object. Okay. So this actually happens dynamically, okay, because referencing happens dynamically. So this is basically runtime polymorphism or dynamic polymorphism. So in Java it is called as dynamic dispatch. Okay. So now let us quickly see that same program. As I have already told you, we have defined a 2D shape, we have defined a rectangle class. Here get dimension method is, it is customized according to the need of triangle class. Again, print area is customized according to the need of the triangle class, rectangle class. And we have another method called as triangle, where get dimension method is customized according to the need of the triangle class, and print area method is also customized according to the need of the triangle class. So these two are customized with respect to the rectangle classes need, these two are customized with respect to triangle classes need. And now in public class, the main class which is there, that is dynamic method dispatch demo. Okay, in main, I first create 2D shapes object. Okay, so we create object of superclass 2D shape as TD. So first we create object TD, which is a object of 2D shape class. Okay, and then we also create a reference variable TD ref, that is a reference variable of type 2D shape. Okay. Now we also create other objects of subclasses. So R is the object of rectangle class, T is the object of triangle class. Now just for because in the example that I showed you, okay, I said I called this reference variable as just ref. Here also I will just mention it as just ref. So ref is a reference variable of type 2D shape. TD is a proper object of type 2D shape. R is an object of rectangle class, which is subclass, and T is also an object of triangle class, which is a subclass. Now, first, what we'll do is this ref reference variable, we make it refer to the object of the subclass triangle. So I just write this code, I just invoke this code, I say ref equal to T. So this reference variable, I am now pointing to the object of type T, subclass object. And now using that ref reference variable, I try to access get dimension, and then again using the same ref reference name, I try to access print area. So as I have told you, dynamically the decision will be made that since ref is pointing to the object of type triangle, when ref tries to access get dimensions and print area methods, these will be called from triangle class. So, you will see when I run this program, it will ask you to enter the base of triangle and height of triangle. So, let us run this program. So, it asks me to enter the base of the triangle, let us say 23, height of the triangle say 14, and then area of the triangle is 161.0. Fine, because first it takes dimensions from me and then prints area. Okay. So, at this moment ref, which is a reference variable of type 2D shape, it is pointing to T, which is a triangle object. Now, let me comment this. And now, this ref reference name, okay, I am trying to point it to the object of rectangle class. So, I will just say, I will just invoke these lines, ref equal to R, and then using ref we are accessing get dimensions and print area. Now see, ref earlier it was pointing to the object of triangle class. So the methods that were invoked were the methods of triangle class, but now ref is pointing to what? Object of a rectangle class. So now you will see that get dimension and print area methods will be invoked of the rectangle class. So now you will see that it will ask me to enter the width and height of the rectangle. So I save this and I run this program again. So now it asks me to enter the width of the rectangle, say 23, say height of the rectangle, say 22.5, and it calculates the area, that is 517.5. Fine. So this is what happens when a reference variable is pointing to the triangle object, and this is what happens when the reference variable is pointing to the rectangle object. Now let us go one step further. What if reference variable, that is ref, is okay, what if it is made to to point to the superclass object 2D shape itself? You see, we have also defined a superclass object TD. What if this ref points to TD itself? Okay, let us see what happens. So I will just say ref equal to TD, and then let ref call get dimensions and let ref call print area. Okay, I save this code and I run. Now what will happen? Since ref is now pointing to the base class itself, its own class, it will now call get dimensions and print area methods from the base class itself or the superclass itself. Okay. So when I run, it will say superclass get dimension method is called and superclass print area method is called. So this is how you can make a reference variable of type superclass. Okay, you can make it work like a toggle switch. Okay, switching between different subclass objects, and it can switch to itself also, and accordingly it will access those particular methods. So this this switching actually takes place during the runtime, and that's why this comes under runtime polymorphism or dynamic polymorphism. Okay, and Java implements this dynamic polymorphism using dynamic method dispatch. Now let us go to the next type of inheritance. So far we have seen only single level inheritance. Let us go one step further. We have something called as multi-level inheritance. In multi-level inheritance, you have a superclass, a subclass B, okay, it inherits properties from the superclass, and then you have a child class C. This child class inherits properties of this subclass. So you have, C that inherits B, and B in turn inherits A. So the traits of A are indirectly inherited by C. So this kind of inheritance, multi-level, it can really go to any level. Here there are only 3 classes, but you can have n number of classes. So this is basically a multi-level inheritance. Now to show you an example program, okay, I have taken one realistic example. I have created a class called as document. Now this document, it represents any of these text documents, print documents. For example, it could be a newspaper, it could be a book which has a nice cover and good quality of pages. It could be also something like a file, a student file, okay, or it could be something like a notebook and so on. So in general, document represents any a print version of the paperwork, right? So this is a class called as document that we shall see. Then this document class, it has paper quality, paper color, has cover and pages. These are the attributes of this super class called as document. Paper quality refers to what quality of paper it is. Paper color, color of the paper. Has cover, it's a boolean field here. Has cover is a boolean field which determines whether the document which we have, it has a cover or whether it is stone. Basically this scenario, this program I have written for a library, say college library or say public library. And in public library, in some cases the book covers are missing, there are some pages which are missing, and that's why I have included this field called as has cover. And also there is a field called as pages, okay. So you will see a class in the program, the class name is document class, and this document class will have, okay, paper quality, paper color, has cover and pages. Out of this, pages is integer value, has cover is a boolean value, whereas paper quality, paper color, these are the string values. And this document class will have its own constructor, which is a parameterized constructor called as document. Then you will see there is another class called as book class, and you will notice that book class, it extends document class. So the second class which I have written is nothing but subclass of the superclass called as document. This class name is book, okay. Now book class, now whenever we talk about books, books have these 3 things. You have author of the book, you have title of the book, and you have a publication of the book. Of course, there is also another thing called as ISBN number. For time being, I have not included it for simplicity, right? So book class, which extends or which inherits document class, it has its own attribute called as author, title and publication. So, and apart from that, it has its own constructor that is called as book. Now please note the definition of this book constructor. Okay, in the definition of this book constructor, you will have to give how many parameters? 3 parameters from the book class, and first 4 parameters will be from the document class. Why? Because book actually extends document. So since book inherits document class, okay, all the attributes of document class are also inherited by book class, as if they are its own attributes. So you will see that when you have constructor of type book, how many parameters will be passed from the main in the constructor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parameters. And then you will see in the code that in the definition of this book constructor, you will have a subclass constructor that is called, okay, that is super, and 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 attributes, okay, which are passed over here, will be passed to the parent class. Okay, we shall see this in the code. For simplicity, we have a subclass called as book that inherits the document class, and these are the attributes, and this is the constructor of the book class. Further, you will also see another class called as comic book class. Now this comic book class is a special characteristics of books, because books can be of different type. You can have a computer programming books, you can have comic books, you can have so many different types of books. So comic book is a special characteristic of special type of category of book. So comic book in turn inherits book class. Okay, and what are its own attributes? We will have a comic character which specifies what is the comic character that is present in that comic book, and of course the price of the book. So these are two characteristics of comic book class itself. So again, see, comic book class constructor will have several parameters that are passed from the main. Okay, so how many parameters? Notice that, students, whenever you have multiple inheritance, whenever you have multi-level inheritance, the last class over here, that happens to be the child class. So in multi-level inheritance, always in main we create objects of only the child class, and object of child class can then access the element of the next parent class or the grandparent class. But for execution purpose, you will always create the objects of only the child class. You will not create object of the intermediate superclass or the topmost superclass. You will always create objects of the child class. Okay, and since comic books object will be called through the main, the constructor, while invoking that object in the main, okay, of type comic book, the constructor, how many parameters will be there? You will have to pass all the parameters of all the superclasses as well. So you will have to pass 1, 2, 3, 4 parameters of the superclass, 5, 6, 7 of the subclass, and 8, 9. These are the two parameters of its own class. So total parameter that you specify here will be 9 parameters. And again, you will see the definition of comic book constructor will have a subclass constructor called as super that will pass, okay, other attributes to other parameters to the upper classes. Okay, so we will just have a quick glance at the program. Multi-level demo. So as you can see, I have a superclass called as document. You have paper quality, paper color, has cover, which is a boolean value, and pages, right? This is the constructor of the document class. Notice that document class, it does not inherit any other class. So it will have a constructor with its own parameters. So you will have paper quality, paper color, has cover, and pages. Now one thing that I want you all to note, I am writing here this dot paper quality. Okay, so this is a special type of keyword. Okay, so this pointer, this is basically this pointer in C++. So this, it points to the object that is currently in action. Whichever object is going to call the particular method, okay, this will always point to that particular object which is in action. Now here I have written this because you see the names of these attributes are paper quality, paper color, has cover, and pages. These are the names of these attributes. But in the constructor, the parameter names also have kept the same. These parameter names are what? These are actually what? These are the formal parameters. Okay, you see, from this book constructor, this particular statement, it is going to pass paper quality, paper color, has cover, and pages. These values are to be passed to the document constructor. So these four actually they are the formal parameters. These are the actual parameters. 1, 2, 3, 4 are the actual parameters, whereas these 1, 2, 3, 4 are the formal parameters. So when I write here paper quality, it is not this variable. When I write here paper color, it is not this variable. But what is happening here? Just to avoid confusion, I wanted to keep the same name as the attributes of this class. So this paper quality is just a name, but it actually refers to the paper quality attribute of the class called as document. Okay, and that is why when I write this dot paper quality equal to paper quality, it tells me that the paper quality on the right hand side here, this value is basically a formal parameter that is passed. Whereas on the left hand side, what I am doing, I am assigning this formal parameter into this dot paper quality. Whichever object who is calling this particular method right now, that object's attribute called as paper quality gets the value called as paper quality. Okay, now if you don't want to use this parameter here, then you could do one thing, you can just change the name of this string, you can just say P, okay, you can just say PA, you can just say HC, and you can just say PAG, and then you don't require this attribute. And you can just write paper quality is nothing but P. Then paper color gets what value? PA. Has cover gets which value? HC. And pages get which value? PAG. Now I think now it is clear. Okay. So when you write like this, it simply means that the formal parameters P, PA, HAC and PAG, these are actually taking values, the values of the attributes from here. Okay. And then whatever is taken from this constructor book, those have to be stored in the attributes of this particular class called as document. Okay. But if you want to, now this actually creates confusion, because what is PA? You can't understand what is PA. What is HC? You can't understand what is HC. So that's why I wanted to keep the names same. So instead of saying P, I wanted to keep the name as paper quality only, so for better readability, right? Similarly, instead of PA, just for better readability, I wanted to keep the name as paper color only. So instead of PA, I wrote say paper color. Then instead of HC, there is no readability. We don't understand what is HC. For better readability, I wanted to keep the same name. So now you understand that this parameter is basically heads covers parameter, and again for PAG I wanted to keep the same name called as pages. Now if this was the thing, then okay, ultimately these values will have to be copied into paper quality, this value of paper color will have to be copied in paper color, this value of hash cover will be copied in hash cover. But the difference is, whatever these values, these variables stores the values, whereas whatever you write on the right hand side, this paper quality or this paper color, they are basically the attributes of the object, whereas on the left hand side what you specify, they are the values of those attributes which we are going to assign. Okay. So just for differentiating, okay, if I had written this, it would have given me error, because paper quality equal to paper quality, what I want to say is this left hand side element, sorry, this right hand side element is actually the paper quality value that we have passed from other classes, right? Whereas this left hand side paper quality is basically paper quality attribute of the object, but it does not make any differentiation, right? And that's why I had written here this dot paper quality. So now it is very much readable. So when I say paper quality here, this paper quality refers to a normal string whose value we have taken from somewhere, whereas here this left hand side paper quality is what? It is basically the object which is in action, that object's paper quality attribute. So this dot paper quality, right? Similarly, paper color, I can write paper color here, and I can say this dot paper color. So now it is more readable. Similarly, hash cover, then the left hand side value will be this dot paper color. So now you can easily distinguish that on the left hand side I am talking about the object's attribute called as paper quality, whereas on the right hand side I am talking about the value that is stored in simple string variable called as paper quality. Okay. Since I have kept the same names, when I use this keyword, that the ambiguity is solved. Okay. So as we were talking about multi-level inheritance, okay, this is my superclass called as document. So it has these attributes which we have seen, and this is the constructor. Then intermediate class subclass, that is called as book. which extends document. It has its own attributes, author, title and publication. Now notice that a constructor of book, since book extends document, how many attributes it will have of its own? It will have first 4 attributes of the document class inherited. So this paper quality here, this paper color, this has cover and this pages, these are 4 attributes which are inherited from the superclass called as document. Whereas author, title and publication, they are attributes of its own. Okay. Now the values of paper quality, paper color, has cover, pages, they have to be passed to the superclass. Okay, and that's why I am writing subclass constructor here in the definition of the subclass. I am saying super paper quality, paper, has cover, pages. That means what I am doing, I am passing paper quality, paper color, has cover and pages, their values I am passing to the superclass. So then these values will be copied here, and that is how superclasses attributes will get the values, right. Okay, so using this subclass constructor, that is super, I am passing the values of first 4 parameters to the superclass. Now what about its own parameters? Book has its own parameters, author, title, publication. So those I am defining here. So this, whatever is the value of author, I am storing in this dot author. Whatever is the value of string title, I am storing in this dot title, and whatever is the value of publication, I am storing in this dot publication. Now you will ask me from where these values come. These values actually will come from the child class called as comic book, okay, which we will see this further. Now finally we have a child class. Now child class called as comic book, it extends book. Okay, so now notice that in multi-level inheritance, whichever is the last child class, no, only object of that class will be created. So that object will pass attributes to all the other previous super classes, right. So the child class called as comic book, it extends book, and it has its 2 parameters, one is comic character and second is price. Now you notice this constructor of the comic book. Constructor of the comic book, since comic book extends book and book in turn extends document class, all the attributes of the document class, all the attributes of the book class as well as its own attributes, all of them will be accessible. So the constructor of comic book class will have all the 9 attributes listed. Okay. Now out of all these 9 attributes, what you are going to do? You are going to pass, see basically which are the inherited attributes? Paper quality, paper color, has cover, pages, 4 attributes of document class, and author, title and publication, remaining 3 attributes of the book class. All these attributes from paper quality till publication, all these have to be passed to the book class here, right. So we will be calling a subclass constructor called as super, and all this paper quality, paper cover, has cover, pages, author, title, publication, all these attributes we will be passing to the superclass constructor, that is book. Notice that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 attributes superclass constructor takes, and all those 7 attributes will be passed to the superclass constructor, whereas comic character and price will be allotted the values of comic character and price here. Fine. So this is how we have created multi-level inheritance. So now let's see how the objects will be called. First, okay. Now what I am trying to do is, I have already told you that I am trying to mimic the college library, and in college library you have something called as bookshelf. Okay. Now say a bookshelf that has comic books will have different comic books, right. So I am trying to represent that object of type comic book. Okay. Basically I am trying to represent it as array of objects, right. So what I will be doing is I am creating array of objects of type comic book. Bookshelf is the name given to that array. Okay. So bookshelf of 0, 0th element in that array will be nothing but it will be the reference name pointing to the one comic book object. Bookshelf of 1 will be the reference name pointing to the second comic book object. Similarly, bookshelf of 2 will be a reference name which will be pointing to the third comic book object and so on. So, this is basically an array of object implementation. I just wanted to show you how array of objects can be done. So, this way bookshelf represent different objects of type comic book, okay, and they are assigned in a proper sequence, right. So, I will be doing the same thing. So, you can see I am creating array of object comic book bookshelf equal to new comic books 3. So, I am creating object of I am creating array of type comic book which will have reference names and the size will be 3. That means, array that can hold 3 comic books. Object of type comic book, it can store 3. Okay. So, bookshelf is an array that will have the reference name, 3 reference name, and each of these 3 reference name will be pointing to 3 different objects of type comic book. Okay. Now, since I am going to ask user to enter the values of whatever book name and so on, I am creating scanner objects of scanner class. See, all the string values, for taking all the string values, I am using a scanner object called as string val. For taking all integer values, I am using a scanner object called as int val. For taking all boolean values, I am using a scanner class object called as bool val. And for taking floating point value, I am using a scanner class object called as float val, right. Next, I declare the variables of superclass. Why they are required? See, I am creating all the variables of superclass. So, right from the document class, you see there was paper quality variable, there was paper color variable, has cover, pages. So, these were the variables of the superclass called as document. Further, I have also declared variables of type string, author, title, publication. These were the variables of book class, and comic character and price, these were the variables of the child class. Now, why do I have to define this? Because when I am going to create an object, I have to pass the values, right. Okay. So, these are the variables that will store the values. Okay. Let us see how. So, first thing, it will print on the computer screen, enter the book details. I have used the for loop because, as I have told you, this array of object, it creates 3 objects, it creates reference to 3 objects. So, in the first iteration, it will refer to the first object and it will enter all the details of the first object. In the second iteration, it will refer to the second object, that is bookshelf of 1, okay, and it will enter all the elements in the bookshelf of 1. Then in the third iteration, bookshelf of 2 reference name will access object of type again comic book and will enter all the elements in that particular object. Okay. So, int I equal to 0, I less than bookshelf dot length, length of the element is 3, that means there are 3 elements in the bookshelf array, and 3 is I is less than 3 true. So, it will come here and will print on the computer screen, enter the details of book number, I is currently 0. So, basically it will say enter the details of book number 1 here. Then it will ask user to enter the paper quality and you have to choose either fine or coarse. So, using string val, that is a scanner object, I will be entering the answer, that is paper quality. Then it will ask, okay, what is the color of the book, that is off white, white or yellow. So, again using string val scanner object, I will be entering the value of paper color. Then it will ask whether book cover is intact or no, you have to write true or false. Okay. So, whatever you type, okay, the scanner object of type bool val will take next boolean value and store it in has cover. Then it will ask enter the number of pages in the book. Okay. The pages will be stored in pages variable, author will be stored in author variable, title of the book will be stored in title variable, publisher details when it is asked, it will be stored in publication variable. Finally, which comic character, it will be stored in comic character variable, and finally price will be stored in price variable. So, notice that all the variables that I declared here, okay, these variables of the superclass, these variables of the subclass and this of the child class, first I am asking the user to enter values in all these variables. Next, I will create an object by calling its constructor. So, bookshelf I equal to new comic book. Okay. Now, see, when I write here Okay, just see, I have just created, when I say bookshelf equal to new comic book 3, I have created an array of object of type bookshelf. Now, when I say bookshelf of I here, okay, bookshelf of I, when I say, what is I currently in this iteration? I is 0. I am talking about bookshelf of 0, 0th indexed reference name called as bookshelf, that will be pointing to object of type comic book. So, using this ith index bookshelf of I am creating a new object, okay, of type comic book, and I am passing all these 9 attributes: paper quality, paper, has cover, pages, author, title, publication. What will be the values of this? Whatever user has entered here, those will be the values of this. Okay. So, what exactly I am doing? In the first iteration, when I is 0, bookshelf of 0 will be this reference name. So, I will be first creating object of type comic book, okay, and bookshelf 0 will be the reference name. That is why I wrote bookshelf of I equal to new comic book. Fine. So, bookshelf of I will now create a new object, or will now point to the new object that is created. This side it will create a new object, and then bookshelf of I is currently 0. So, bookshelf of 0, it is a reference name that will point to the object, the first object that is created. Okay. Whereas, students note that initially when I say comic book bookshelf equal to new comic book 3, I am simply creating an array. The objects are not created. I am just creating an array of type comic book. That means it can have all the reference name that can point to different object. The actual object creation, it happens here. So, bookshelf of I is that is bookshelf of 0, 0th index reference name that points to the first object that is created here. Now, so when I say comic book, paper quality and all, this is a constructor of type comic book. So, these values that I have entered to the keyboard, they will be passed to the comic book constructor. So, from here it will call the comic book constructor of comic book class. So, it will come, control will come here. All those values that I have typed, they will be stored in these variables. Then first 4 values, paper quality, paper color, has cover, pages and all this. First 7 values, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. First 7 values that we just passed from the main, that will be passed to the super class of comic book. Who is the super class of comic book? It is the book class. So, that constructor will be now called. From here, the control passes to that constructor, this constructor, books constructor of the book class. Okay. So, first 7 parameters that are passed, first 7 parameters that are passed from this constructor, okay, that are passed from here will be copied in these variables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then again in the definition of this particular constructor, there is a line. So, out of those 7 values that are transferred, the first 4 values, paper quality, paper and has cover and pages, first 4 will be passed to its super class. Okay, book, which is the super class of book? Book has document, that's a super class. So, all this will be passed to the document class. So, then the control passes to the document classes constructor. So, right from the void main, the values using subclass constructor, okay, the values have come from comic book class to the book class, and then again using subclass constructor of the book class, the values have come to the super class, right. So, then finally paper quality, paper color and all this will be stored in the values of paper quality, paper color, has cover, pages of the document classes object, right. So, once this is done, the control passes once this assignment is done, okay, from where we have come to this document constructor, who has called? It is the book classes subclass constructor that actually called the constructor of the document class. So after assigning these values, when the closing bracket of the super classes constructor is encountered, the control passes to the place from where it was called. So from where it was called? From this particular place it was called. So this line is already executed. So now control passes to the next line. So author of book class at book class, it will be the value of this author here. Whatever is the value that is passed from the main, that will be stored in author attribute. Similarly, whatever title will be stored into the title attribute. Whatever publication value that is stored will be stored in the publication attribute. Fine. So after the closing bracket of this is encountered, okay, the control will pass to the place from where it was called. Now from where this book constructor was called, notice that in the comic books constructor, that book constructor was called through this particular subclass constructor. This was actually the call made. This actually passed the values to the book classes constructor. So after execution of book classes constructor is over, the control should pass to the next line here. So finally, comic character and price attributes will be assigned those values. Now notice that all those values you see, paper quality, paper color, has cover pages, then later on author, title, publication, and then now comic character and price. All these attributes are attributes of which object? So far, which is the object who has actually started this chain reaction? It is basically the object of type comic book. Okay, for your information, book in this iteration I is 0, bookshelf of 0 was a reference name to that first object that is created of type comic book, and all those attributes which are assigned, they are assigned actually to the object of type comic book which is referenced by bookshelf of 0. So all these attributes are, this is how they are stored. Fine, right? So this is the first iteration. Then after this closing bracket is encountered, it will go to the second iteration. I will increment by 1, so I will become 1. 1 is less than 3 because the size of the bookshelf is 3. 1 is less than 3. So again it will ask you to enter the details of the second book, and bookshelf of 1, okay, using reference name bookshelf of 1, another object will be created of type comic book, and all these values that user has specified, all those will be passed to the comic book object. Okay. So in the second iteration, bookshelf of 1 reference name will be used to create another object, another comic book object. Okay, bookshelf of 1 will be used to create another comic book object, and then all those values which user have passed in the second iteration, all those will be passed. Okay, so this is called to the comic book constructor. From here the control will pass to comic book constructor. Okay, again through the comic book constructor's definition, there will be a call made to book constructor. In the definition of book constructor, there is a call made to the document constructor. Now document constructor is the last thing. So once all these values are assigned, when the closing bracket is encountered, control will pass to the place from where this constructor was called. From where it was called? From the book constructor's subclass constructor. From here it was called. So control will pass to this line here. Okay, then these values will be assigned, and then again closing bracket of the book class constructor is encountered. So from here the control will pass to the next line from where it was called. Now from where this book constructor was called? It was called from this line, right? So the control will pass here, and finally it will assign comic character and price. All these values will be assigned to that object which we have created in the second iteration. Okay, this new object that is created, whose reference name is bookshelf of 1. Fine. And again, so this is the end of the second iteration. Then there is a third iteration, and so on. This will go on, and finally it will come out of this for loop, and then it will print information for all the books on the shelf. Okay, it will simply print comic book array currently now contains all the information. Okay, so I am using for each loop for each comic book. Okay, for each book attribute in comic book in bookshelf, I am simply printing the values. Okay, if I run this program, okay, it will ask me to enter the book details, enter the details of book number 1 here. Okay, so paper quality, suppose I say fine, paper color, it say off white, is the paper cover intact, say true, enter the number of pages in this book, say 300 pages, enter the author of this particular book, say Mark, enter the title of this particular book, say Spider-Man, enter the publisher of the this particular book, say Marvel, and enter the key comic character in the book, say Spider-Man, and finally the price of the book, say 300 rupees. So this is all about book number 1. Then it will ask me to enter the details of book number 2. Paper quality, say coarse, enter the paper color, say yellow, book cover is not intact, enter the number of pages, say 40 pages, author of the book Anant Pai, publisher details Amar Chitrakatha, price of the book 30. Okay, and the third book, enter the details of the third book. Okay, paper quality, paper color I have not entered, let's say. Okay, paper color, it's a white, book cover is not intact or say intact, enter the number of pages, say 34, enter the author of the book, something ABCD, enter the title of the book, write anything, publisher details of the book, comic character, say anything, Mickey, price of the book, say 500, and so on. So once you enter, it is going to print the details, so bookshelf details. You see book number, title, publication, author, comic series, Spider-Man, price, pages, okay, and other things, whether it has cover, whether paper quality is fine or what, and paper color, all this is for librarian's reference. So this is the first book. Then again book number 2 in the shelf, title, publication, author, and so on, and these are the details for the librarian's reference, and this is the third book's detail, and so on. So this is how multi-level inheritance can be implemented in Java.